South Africa leads Africa's challenge at the Rugby World Cup in England. This is Match Point. Hello and thank you for joining us. I am Peninah Karibe. Also coming up in the show, 2015 African Games come to a close in Congo Brazzaville. We have the latest highlights. And how Libya is tapping into the unifying power of sport to foster reconciliation amid internal conflict. Japan have delivered the biggest upset of the Rugby World Cup so far with a 34-32 win over two-time champion South Africa to register just the second ever win in 7 World Cups. In earlier matches, Ireland put on an underwhelming warm-up campaign firmly behind them by crushing Canada 50-7 in the Rugby World Cup Pool D opener at the Millennium Stadium. The Six Nations champions, recently ranked second in the world behind New Zealand and looking to go beyond the quarterfinals for the first time, were out of sight early on after scoring 4 first-half tries before adding 3 in the second half. The opening match of Pool C saw Georgia take a 10-3 lead into halftime with a try from their captain Mamuka Gogodze and a penalty from veteran fullback Merab Virikashvili. Handling errors plagued both teams in the second half, but flanker Georgie managed to touch down for Georgia's second try as Georgia won 17-10. For more on this action, let's cross over live to Sias du Plessis, who's standing by in Johannesburg. Sias, the South Africa match has just ended. Is the performance what the fans back home expected?
Definitely not. I think the fans around South Africa and the world, the South African fans, are still gobsmacked after what is an incredible result. And if there's one team that's earned their nickname, the Brave Blossoms, it's Japan today, because they came out, they really played fantastic rugby. They were out-muscled, they were outsmarted, the Springboks, and they'll be going back to that drawing board wondering what went on. Japan coach Eddie Jones called the South Africans one-dimensional, and he proved that he was right today. Peninah Karibe's side lacked vision, they lacked any passion, and they were totally outplayed today by a Japanese side that wanted it more. The fans can't believe it. Social media has exploded. They really are in disbelief and despair, if I can put it this way, after that very surprising result at the Rugby World Cup.
So what are the matches involving African teams should we look forward to?
Yes, Namibia are in action against the defending champions, the All Blacks. That's on Thursday, and that's going to be their first meeting, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of the Rugby World Cup. And it will be a massive task for the Welwitschers as they go up against the #1 ranked team in the world. And Namibia yet to win a game at the World Cup. Can they follow in the steps of Japan? Well, it'll be very interesting, but I think the All Blacks are going to be a very different kettle of fish compared to the Springboks in Japan earlier today.
Well, I'm sure the continent will be watching that. Sias du Plessis live for us in Johannesburg. Many thanks. Now, the Rugby World Cup is now underway, and one African country is watching, thinking that could have been us. Zimbabwe narrowly missed out on qualification last year. It would have been the second time at the Global Sports Showpiece. CCTV's Farai Mokutuya now reports.
Zimbabwe is the only other African country that's made it to a Rugby World Cup besides Namibia and, of course, South Africa. But that's almost a lifetime ago, 1991 to be precise. I recently caught up with the man who played in that Rugby World Cup 24 years ago. He bagged one of Zimbabwe's tries in their match against Ireland. He also happens to be the same man who coached Zimbabwe's Nearly men, who missed out by just a whisker last year to make it to this year's sporting showpiece.
When I took over coaching in 2007,
Brendan Dawson has first-hand experience of the problems afflicting the local game. The former flanker coaches one of the top school's rugby teams, a version of the game that has flourished in Zimbabwe, but whose success hasn't been replicated at the senior level.
all our most talented players have left the country. There's a lot of players that are playing outside the country. We don't have the money to bring them in. We don't have the money to fly them in. We don't have the money to put in a proper camp.
A number have chosen to adopt foreign citizenship and now play for other countries. The domestic league is currently suspended due to a lack of sponsorship, an ominous sign that it may be a long road back to the glory days.
When we get back there, the problem is that the rest of the nations within Africa are progressing and growing very quickly. Namibia now will grow quickly with a lot of money being involved. Kenya are going to be putting a lot of money in. Their junior sides are really exciting, and they're going to put a lot of money in for the next World Cup. Has Zimbabwe done it? That is where the crunch comes, and Zimbabwe need a lot of help. Zimbabwe need a lot of money, and Zimbabwe need a lot to sort out the structures that are now in place, and for them to grow. Because I don't believe if we carry on the same way we're doing it now, we're not going to qualify again.
But Dawson thinks the current crop of players should also shoulder part of the blame for the slump in performances.
The way they want to be personally is a little bit less than what we did, because we had at a higher level to want to play it. And these poor guys don't. But in saying that, you surely as an individual want to be the best that you can be and set your own goals within yourself. And I don't see it with a lot of the players. There are still a lot of players that are, and it's a handful. You need to have 5 or 6 handfuls, so you've got an abundance of players playing at a good level, physically strong, physically minded, strong-minded. Then you can then it can create. At the moment, we don't.
It's been an alarming decline for Zimbabwe, who just 4 years ago were African champions, but now have tough questions to answer as they try to plot a route back to the top. Peninah Karibe, CCTV, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Well, Kenya too is watching the Rugby World Cup from home after they narrowly missed out a place at this year's edition, which would have marked the country's debut at the world stage in 15s rugby. But even as fans hope 2019 might bring better fortune for the team, the sport continues to fight a number of challenges in the country. Celestine Karone brings us this story of a club which is defying high odds for the love of the game.
A rugby club off the beaten track. The Brumbies Rugby Club in Nairobi's Eastlands area is a world apart from the renowned Kenyan clubs along Ngong Road. But that did not matter for the group of young men who began this club in late 2013.
The whole idea came up after we finished high school. Many of our friends, we stay around, we used to play rugby in high school. So when we finished, we were like, we don't want to get into drugs, we want to be idlers, we want to do something as we wait for our results and also as we wait to get into university. So that's why we started a club, a place where you finished high school, your mother is not giving you any allowance, that you can go to clubs like in Ngong Road, which is a bit far. So we decided, let's use what we have, the resources that we have.
Society venye ilikuanga ni football peke yake ilikuanga.
In this area, football is the only sport which many youth engage in. So we decided to start this club because people would come from high school with the talent to play but no club close to them.
2 years on, the club, which was formed after 2 teams merged for lack of numbers, are playing in Kenya's second-tier rugby league. The challenges have been many.
It was kind of challenging because at first we didn't have a coach. So we used to train ourselves and we used to get the little tips we could get from different coaches and come and help us grow.
Home ground, atuna kits.
We have no home ground. Acquiring kit and training equipment is a problem. When we started, we didn't have a coach, and we are also struggling to get our guys into a gym practice. The team has been receiving some coaching help from visiting British rugby group Ultimate Rugby Sevens.
Everywhere we go, we're wowed by real raw talent. But that's probably what we see the most of, is raw talent in schools and colleges and universities. I think the future's really bright, but as is the case everywhere in the world, it's about developing and investing in the grassroots of the game with really quality coaching.
Paul is a university student whose love for the game was groomed in high school. But even as he juggles his engineering studies and rugby, the 23-year-old believes he can still play professionally one day.
I want to play for the Kenya 15s especially.
Despite its humble beginnings, the Brumbies Rugby Club believes they can grow into the kind of team which can challenge the more established rugby clubs in the country and nurture talent in a region which is not known for its rugby tradition. Celestine Karone, CCTV in Nairobi.
Time for us to take a breather. We'll be back with more sporting action, including 2015 African Games come to a close in Congo Brazzaville, and we have the latest highlights. Also, how Libya is tapping into the unifying power of sport to foster reconciliation amid internal conflict. Competition at the African Games in Congo Brazzaville is coming to a close. We sampled views from some athletes and officials on the 2015 Pan-African Games.
Well, the organization for me is very good, very nice. And the transport is available anytime you need the transport. Is available. The place where we stay, quite nice, very nice. It's very big for two people in a room. Is okay. In general, for us, is a very nice organization.
Yeah, we enjoyed. It's just that we're not used to some of the meals. But with time we got used with the food, so we are enjoying the food. And the situation here, the weather, the environment, it's really good.
They could have done it as much better than this. They could have, have everything arranged in advance, so we don't have to go through what we have gone now. We put these athletes in stress because they don't know their program, they don't know what time they'll be running. It's just too much for an athlete to go through that.
Everything is good, except for some issues with the bus. Yeah, you have to wait for quite some time to get a bus. Everybody's coming down, everybody's going up. Well, not really up, but when you're coming down, especially in the morning, yeah, there's a little bit of issue with the bus.
You can see that with the Congolese, despite having language barriers with some of the people like us, the English-speaking countries, but they always make sure that they communicate with us. So, and the protocols are also very good, and they're willing to help each and everyone at any time the help rises.
They didn't know what was happening when the programs and the translators, especially because most countries use English language and some use French, so there was a bit confusion there.
South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee President Gideon Sam has given his nation's athletes a glowing review following their performance at the African Games in Brazzaville. Sam, who has previously worked in several capacities in South African sport, however, decried the lack of willingness from top athletes to turn out at the Continental Games. The president spoke to CCTV's Mahemutua on a range of issues, including South Africa's plans for Rio 2016 and Durban's hosting of the 2022 Commonwealth Games.
Well, we have done enough to satisfy our wishes as to when we come to all the games here, African Games. We have in the past made sure that that we are in the top 3. So from our side, as preparation for 2016, we are comfortable where we are now and how our athletes are performing. So yes, we can go home proud of the performances here, the number of medals that we have actually collected here. But I must be honest with you, we probably need to raise the bar here in terms of how we present these games so that they become attractive for our top athletes. I mean, for me to sit with my wrestlers and say that, Mr. President, we were called for 10 o'clock and it started at 6 o'clock. You're not going to get the top athletes here, and it's also going to discourage us as a country to insist that our top athletes come here, because what we do in South Africa, we ask our athletes to come here, otherwise they must forget about the Olympic Games. We take this as a serious step towards the Olympic Games, but when you see what you see here, you do begin to worry as to whether you can force your athletes to actually come here. So maybe in the future we will probably look at our second strings and third strings, which is not good for Africa. Africa should be like the Asian Games, like the European Games, like the Pan American Games. It must be the top class for that continent. And we want to create that window of opportunities for our young people in South Africa to enter onto a platform so that they prepare themselves over a 7-year period. So why can't we take them and move along with them and develop them? Take them now, the next step will be, let's go to 2018 Commonwealth Games in Australia. Let's go to 2020 in Tokyo, and let's see. Let's arrive in Durban fully prepared.
After Spain now, where defender Zuhair Fedal is relishing the chance of playing top-flight football in the Spanish league. The Moroccan player, however, says there is no time to celebrate as his club Levante needs all the help to remain in the league. CCTV Sadiq Shaban now reports.
Moroccan international Zuhair Fedal made 17 appearances for his Italian club Parma before it was disbanded last season. The player received interest from clubs in England but chose to return to Spain, where he played for a number of clubs in his junior and senior career.
First of all, I'd like to thank Levante for the chance that they've given me to play with the Spanish league. The Spanish league is the biggest league in the world, with the English, Italian and German ones. I had a good welcome from day one here at Levante, especially from Nabil Alzar and the Algerian Nabil Gilas.
His team, Levante, are currently in the 14th place in the Spanish Primera Liga with no victories so far. They are dangerously close to the relegation zone.
Levante is fighting to stay in the top league, and it's a good team. It's the second team in the town of Valencia. Our goal this year is to get to 40 or 42 points, and after that we can dream of other things. But the main goal is not to be relegated.
But the player has been under criticism for showing little enthusiasm to play for the Moroccan national team.
I have a very good relationship with the national team coach, and he knows my ability. I don't have to prove anything to him, as he knows what I can give the national team. My aim here is to play as many matches as I can with Levante, and I hope to play for the national team as a result.
Brazil awaits the call from Morocco coach Beda Ezaki. Fedal has his focus on helping his team avoid a trip out of the top-flight Spanish football. Sadiq Shaban, CCTV, Nairobi.
Well, and as we've been reporting, competition at the African Games in Congo Brazzaville is coming to a close. Well, let's cross now to our crew in Brazzaville for the latest on the African Games. Mahe, it's been a dramatic closing session of the 2015 African Games. What are some of the key results or competition highlights?
Well, Peninah, indeed, today is the final day here at the competition, the All Africa Games. The curtain is coming down on the tournament. There was a huge sandstorm just before the closing ceremony, which kind of put a damper on everything. But probably the biggest result is what happened in the football yesterday, and I can bring in CCTV's Wazir Hamsin now to talk about that. Wazir, obviously yesterday was a day of firsts for both football teams. In the men's result, Senegal beat Burkina Faso. What about in the women's?
I mean, in the women, we've seen that it was a sweet revenge actually for Ghana, for a team like Ghana. You remember 4 years ago in 2011, they lost to the same margin. They lost with the same margin to Cameroon, and that is the women football. Cameroon took gold in Maputo 2011. Now it was the time for Ghana actually, who won gold, beating Cameroon by 1-0. So it was an interesting match, and the games generally have been phenomenal. The 2.5 weeks have been extremely wonderful here. We've seen stars, young players coming up. They got a platform and they actually proved themselves that they can do it, and they can do it better, and they can even play well even on a bigger stage like this one.
Indeed, we did hear it there from Mr. Gideon Sam, the SASCOC president, talking about how some teams brought younger squads, others brought more experienced sides. But just in wrapping up, obviously, for much of the tournament, we did see Egypt and South Africa leading the medal standings. What happened in the end?
In the end, now we've seen that actually Egypt overtook South Africa, and Egypt is now actually the team title. They have won it this time round, because South Africa won it in 2011 in Maputo. So South Africa now is second after Egypt, and sadly for Nigeria, which was number 3 in Maputo, they've now actually been relegated to number 4, and Algeria has taken that position to number 3.
Yeah. Well, there you heard it from Waziri himself and from myself. It has been quite a phenomenal tournament. We've seen plenty of huge names, plenty of big teams. We are, of course, looking forward to the next edition in either Nairobi or Lusaka or Accra, Nairobi being the only host that has held it before. But from us here in Brazzaville, it is a wrap on the 11th edition of the All Africa Games. Back to you, Peninah, in studio.
Nahemutua live for us there in Brazzaville, and Wazir Hamsin, thanks very much. Well, let's move to Libya now, where despite a raging internal conflicts, the unifying factor of sport has not been eroded. A beach handball tournament was held there recently, and as Leslie Mirungu now reports, hopes remain high that sport could play a vital role in Libya's reconciliation process.
The coastal city of Zuwara in the north of Libya staged the first edition of the Awesu International Beach Handball. The only international side taking part was Serbia. But for this war-torn country, that is a sign of progress. And judging by the considerable number of fans who flocked here to watch, the game, which is not new to some, is slowly gaining traction in the country.
Beach handball is considered new in Libya, but not for us in Zuwara. We played it and organized tournaments in the past, and most of the national team players are from Zuwara, because Zuwara has a long sandy beach and a good environment for this kind of games.
The event, which lasted 3 days, brought together 6 teams, including 5 local ones, alongside the Serbian team. Behind the event, though, is a glimmer of hope that sport is playing a part in driving the reconciliation process in Libya. Leslie Murungu, CCTV.
Let's take another quick break. When we return, we explore the safety of motorsport spectators in Uganda.
Usain Bolt's in town. We've got a rugby version. I'm not sure what sort of a dance that is.
Kiranesh Dibaba of Ethiopia wins 10,000 metres gold.
Lewis, well done. You're an absolute legend.
The motorsport community regularly deals with the aftermath of drivers and fans being killed during races. The World Motorsport Governing Body is now seeking to evaluate safety measures for drivers and spectators. But how safe are fans in countries like Uganda, where motorsport is popular? Leon Sinyange explores the answer.
Expect the unexpected is a common phrase told to motorsport enthusiasts, and quite often spectators are too close for comfort should a driver in a rally car lose control. While driver safety is being targeted in recent past, momentum is also growing on protecting the fans of the sport too.
In Uganda, motorsport is the second most popular sport after soccer. Often, thousands of fans attend rally events to watch high-speed car races. To protect the fans from possible danger, 90% of safety preparations are undertaken ahead of a rally.
We have an increased safety involvement in the rally. Police, as you can see even here at scrutineering, in the middle of the sections we have midpoint monitors who at an interval of, let's say, 10 kilometers or less, depending on the nature of the section, we have increased, they report on traffic in the road.
But even with the hundreds of marshals deployed on the rally routes, it can be difficult to keep the funds off the trucks. As a result, the number of fatalities at rally events worldwide continues to grow. To try to reduce those numbers, the local Motorsport Federation has started restricting the type of cars allowed to be driven and the times these rallies can take place.
We had a couple of accidents, and these were partly related or blamed to the experience of the drivers in handling rally cars, because driving a street car and a rally car are totally different. And the rule was brought up because of the need to create a bit of a feeder or a nursery that would then help the sport to get quality drivers. So whoever will register under the CRC category will take a full year of training.
Reviews into spectator and driver safety are already underway to help evaluate additional measures that organizers should be taking during a motorsport event. One of them is to ensure all competitions take place on closed roads by 2017. And it is already an option drivers are eager to take.
We're not looking at safety in the same manner. So I think as FIA, we really need to work hard and find some closed stages like in Europe. That's the way forward. Safety is a big concern. As I said, speeds are very fast, so you really got to be very, very cautious, and you can't compromise safety.
Individual governing bodies in each country have made huge leaps in keeping competitions restricted to less populated areas, and Uganda is working towards that goal. But there are concerns over what impact these changes are likely to have on the sport. Leon Sanyange, CCTV, Kampala.
And that's it for this edition of Matchpoint. We invite your feedback. Send it to matchpoint@cctv.com. You can visit our Facebook page, CCTV Africa. You can also stay in touch on Twitter using the handle @CCTV News Africa. I am Peninah Karibe. Thanks for watching. We leave you with our move of the week.